Alright, welcome back to Review 345. I kind of had to add the 345 because it told me to, so yeah, don't worry about that part. But if you're reading along in Fahrenheit 451, we ended off on page 99, and we read the whole page of 99, so now we're on page 100, very top of page 100, 100. So, here we go. The sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth's shore, lay like the folds on bright girdle furled, but now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. The chairs creaked under the three women. Montag finished it out. Ah, love, let us be true to one another, for the world, which means to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, has really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain, and we are here as on darkling plains, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clashed by night. Miss Phelps was crying. The others in the middle of the desert watched her crying grow very loud as her face squeezed itself out of shape. She sat, not touching her, bewildered with her display. She sobbed uncontrollably. Montag himself was stunned and shaken. "Shh, shh," said Mildred. "You're all right, Clara. Now, Clara, snap out of it. Clara, what's wrong?" I, sobbed Miss Phillips. Don't know, I just don't know. Oh. Miss Bola stood up and glared at Montag. "You see, I knew it. That's what I wanted to prove. I knew it would happen. I've always said poetry and tears, poetry and suicide, and crying and awful feelings, poetry and sickness, all that mush. Now I've had it proved to me. You're nasty, Mr. Montag, you're nasty," Sabre said. "Now." Montag felt himself turn and walk to the wall slot and drop the book into the brass notch in the wall in the waiting flames. Silly words, silly awful hurting words," said Miss Bellis. Why do people want to hurt people? Not enough hurt in the world? You got to tease people with stuff like that. Clara, began Mildred, pulling her arm. "Come on, let's be cheery. You turn the family on now. Go ahead, let's laugh and be happy now. Stop crying. We'll have a party." "No," said Miss Lola. "I'm trotting right straight home. You want to visit my house and my family. Well and good. I won't come in the fireman's crazy house again in my lifetime." "Go home," Montag fixed his eyes upon her quietly. "Go home and think of your first husband divorced, and your second husband killed in a jet, and your third husband blowing his brains out. Go home and think of dozens of abortions you've had. Go home and think of that, and your damned cesarean sections, too, and your children who hate your guts. Go home and think about all what's happening, and what did you ever do to stop it. Go home, he yelled, "before I knock you down and kick you out the door." The door slammed and the house was empty. Montag stood alone in the winter weather, with the parlor walls in the color of dirty snow. In the bathroom water ran. He heard Mildred shake to the sleeping tablets in her hand. "Fool, Montag, fool. Oh, God, you silly fool." "Shut up!" He pulled the green bullet out of his ear and jammed it into his pocket. It sizzling faintly. Fool. He searched the house and found the books where Mildred had stacked them behind the refrigerator. Some were missing, and he knew that she had started on her own slow process of dispersing the dynamite in her house, stick by stick. But she was not angry now, only exhausted and bewildered with himself. He carried the books into the backyard and hid them in the bushes near the alley fence. For tonight only, he thought, in case she decides to do any more burning. He went back through the house. "Mildred?" he called at the door in the darkened bedroom. There was no sound. Outside, crossing the lawn on his way to work, he tried not to see how completely dark and deserted Clarice McLean's house was. On the way downtown, he was so completely alone with his terrible error that he felt the necessity for the strange warmness and goodness that came from a familiar and gentle voice speaking in the night. Already in a few short hours it seemed that he had known a favorite a lifetime. Now he knew that he was two people, and he was above all Montag, who knew nothing, who did not even know himself a fool, but only suspected it. And he knew that he was only the old man who talked to him and talked to him as the train was sucked from one end of to the night city to the other on one long, stickling grasp of motion. In the days to follow, in the nights when there was no moon in the night, when there was a very bright moon shining on the earth, the old man would go on with his talking, and this talking, drop by drop, stone by stone, flake by flake. His mind was well over all the last, over, okay, I'm sorry, over at last, and he wouldn't be Montag, he would not be Montag anymore. This, the old man told him, assured him, promised him. He would be Montag plus Faber, fire plus water, and then one day, after everything had mixed and simmered and worked away in silence, there would be neither fire nor water, but wine. But for two separate and opposite things a third, and one day he would look back upon the pool and know the pool. Even now he could feel the start of a long journey, the leaf talking and the going away from the self he had been. He was good at listening to the beetle hum, the sleepy mosquito buzz, and delicate filtering murmur of the old man's voice at the first scolding him and then consoling him in the late hour of night, and he emerged from the steaming subway towards the firehouse world. Pity, Montag, pity. Don't haggle and nag them. You were so recently of them yourself. They are so confident that they will run on forever, but they won't run on. They don't know that this is all one huge big blazing meteor that makes a pretty fire in space, but that someday it'll have to hit. They see only the blaze, the pretty fire, as you saw it. Montag, old men who stay at home, afraid, tendering their peanut brittle bones, have no right to criticize. Yet you almost killed things at the start. Watch it. I'm with you. Remember that. I understand how it happened. I must admit that your blind raging instigated me. God, how young I felt. But now I want you to feel old. I want a little of my cowardice to be distilled in you tonight. The next few hours when you see Captain Beatty, tiptoe round him. Let him hear through you. Let me feel the situation out. Survival is our ticket. Forget the poor, silly women. I made them unhappier than they have been in years, I think, said Montag. It shocked me to see Miss Phelps cry. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's best not to face things, to run, have fun. I don't know. I feel guilty. No, you mustn't. If there was no war, if there was peace in the world, I'd stay fine, have fun. But Montag, you mustn't go back to being just a fireman. All isn't well with the world, Montag perspired. Montag, you're listening? My feet, said Montag. I can't move them. I feel so damn silly. My feet won't move. Listen. Easy now. said the old man gently. I know. You're afraid of making mistakes. Don't be. Mistakes can be profited by man. When I was younger, I shoved my uh, ignorance in people's faces. They beat me with sticks, but by the time I was 40, my blunt instrument had been honed to a fine cutting point for me. If you hide your ignorance, no one will hit you and you'll never learn. Now pick up your feet. Into the firehouse with you. We're twins. We're not alone anymore. We're not separate out in different parlors. With no contact between. If we need help when Beatty cries at you, I'll be sitting right here in your eardrum, making notes. Montag felt his right foot and then his left foot move. Old man, he said, stay with me. The mechanical hound was gone. Its kennel was empty, and the firehouse stood all about in plaster silence, and the orange salamander slept in its kerosene in its belly, and the fire throwers crossed upon its flanks. Montag came in through the silence and touched the brass pole and slid up the dark air, looking back at the deserted kennel. His heart beating, paws beating. Faber was a gray moth asleep in his ear for the moment. Beatty stood near the drop pole waiting, but with his back turned as if he were not waiting. Well, he said to the men playing cards, here comes a very strange beast, which in all tongues is called a fool. He put his hand to one side, palm up, for a gift. Montag put the book in it. Without even glancing at the title, Beatty tossed the book in the trash basket and lit a cigarette. Who are a little wise, the best in a little cigarette. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that was weird. Okay. Who are a little wise, the best fools be. Welcome back, Montag. I hope you'll be staying with us, now that your fever is done and your sickness is over. Sit in for a hand of poker. They sat, and the cards were dealt. In Beatty's sight, Montag felt the gilt of his hand. His fingers were like ferrets, and had done some evil, and now never rested always stirred and picked and hid in pockets, moving from under Beatty's alcohol-flamed stare. If Beatty so much as breathed on them, Montag felt his hands might wither, turn over on their sides, and never be shocked to life again. They would be buried the rest of his life in his coat sleeves, forgotten. For these were the hands that had acted on their own. No part of him here was where the conscience first manifested itself to snatch books, to dart off with Job and Ruth and Lily, Shakespeare, and now the firehouse. These hands seemed blood with blood. Twice in a half an hour, Montag had to rise from the game and go to the latrine to wash his hands. When he came back, he hid his hands under the table. Beatty laughed. Let's have your hands in sight, Montag. Not that we don't trust you, understand, but they all laughed. Well, said Beatty, this crisis is past all is well. The sheep returns to the fold. We're all sheep who have strayed at times. Ugh. Truth is truth, to the end of reckoning. We've cried. They are never alone, that they are accompanied with noble thoughts. We've shouted to ourselves, sweet food or sweetly utterly knowledge. Okay, so that's page 105. So we finished from 100 to 105. So I'll see y'all next time, and I hope you guys are enjoying the book. And I know I mess up sometimes at reading, but I hope that I don't really suck at it, because I know it's mostly for my project, but it'd be great if you guys liked it too. So yeah, bye. Maybe. Okay.